My boyfriend locked me in his car for 2 hours during his sister's wedding because my dress was too revealing. It was 95 degrees and I had no water, phone, or way to escape. Either change or stay here. I won't let you embarrass me in front of my family wearing that, he said, slamming the door. 1 week later, he called me 36 times in a single day, begging me to forgive him after discovering what I did. I still can't believe this actually happened. I've been sitting in my new apartment for days, trying to process everything. Part of me feels like I'm writing about someone else's life, but the sunburn and dehydration headache I'm still nursing remind me that yes, this nightmare was very real. The day had started so normally. Last Saturday was supposed to be a happy occasion. Eric's sister Chelsea was getting married at this gorgeous vineyard venue about an hour outside the city. I'd spent weeks finding the perfect dress, a navy blue midi dress with small cap sleeves and a sweetheart neckline. It was elegant, appropriate for a summer wedding, and honestly, pretty conservative. I'd even checked with Chelsea months ago to make sure the color wouldn't clash with her bridal party. She loved it. We were running late that morning because Eric kept changing his tie, fussing with his hair, making sure everything was perfect. He's always been image conscious around his family, but that day he seemed especially tense. In the car, he kept shooting these strange glances at my dress, but didn't say anything until we pulled into the venue parking lot. He parked in the farthest corner, away from the other cars in the venue entrance. As I reached for the door handle, I heard the central locking system click. I turned to ask why he'd locked the doors, and that's when I saw his face. Cold, disgusted, angry. "What do you think you're wearing?" he asked, his voice eerily calm. Confused, I looked down at my dress. The navy one? Chelsea approved it months ago. His laugh was sharp, humorless. Of course she did. My sister has no standards either. He gestured to my neckline. "You're practically falling out of that thing. My entire family is going to be there, including my grandparents. I'm not walking in with you looking like that." I was stunned. This wasn't revealing at all. It was a normal, appropriate dress for a wedding. "Eric, this is ridiculous. We're already late. Let's just go in." That's when he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a plain white t-shirt. "Put this on over your dress or stay in the car." When I refused, his face hardened. "Fine, your choice." He grabbed my purse before I could react, took out my phone, and pocketed it along with the car keys. "Either change or stay here. I won't let you embarrass me in front of my family wearing that." I thought he was bluffing. He couldn't possibly be serious about leaving me locked in the car during an entire wedding ceremony. "Eric, stop this. It's not funny." "I'm not joking," he said, opening his door. "I'll check on you after the ceremony. Maybe by then you'll understand how important this day is for my family." The door slammed shut. I watched in disbelief as he walked away, straightening his tie, transforming back into charming Eric as he approached the venue entrance. He didn't look back once. I tried the doors immediately, all locked. The windows were up, the child safety locks were on, and the alarm was armed. If I tried to force anything, the alarm would blare through the entire venue. I was trapped. It was 95 degrees that day. The air conditioning shut off with the engine. Within 20 minutes, I was drenched in sweat. Within an hour, I was dizzy, my designer dress sticking to my skin. By the time 2 hours had passed, I was genuinely afraid I might pass out from heat exhaustion. And through the windshield, I could see glimpses of the beautiful ceremony, the venue where I should have been, the celebration I was missing. All because my boyfriend thought my completely normal dress would somehow embarrass him. Little did Eric know, as he said his sister's wedding vows with his family beaming proudly around him, that this would be the last day he could call me his girlfriend. And by the time he realized what I did in response, it would already be far too late. Updated. Thank you all for the support on this post. It's truly overwhelming. For clarity, no, this wasn't a one-time thing, just the worst instance. And yes, I did try honking the horn, but the venue was far enough away that nobody heard. Has anyone else experienced a partner suddenly showing their true colors at a family event? Eric and I had been together for 2 years. When we first met at my friend's housewarming party, he was the perfect gentleman. Attentive, funny, well-dressed in that effortless J. Crew catalog way. He had this confidence that drew me in, always knowing exactly which wine to order, which fork to use at fancy restaurants. Coming from my middle-class background where Olive Garden was our special occasion spot, I found his world fascinating. The first 6 months were blissful. He surprised me with thoughtful gifts, remembered small details about my preferences, and made me feel special in a way no one had before. I thought I'd hit the relationship jackpot. But looking back, the red flags were there all along, waving frantically while I chose to admire their bright color instead of heeding their warning. It started small. Comments about my outfits that seemed helpful at first. "That color doesn't flatter you." Or, "Maybe choose something a little more sophisticated for dinner with my friends." I began second-guessing my clothing choices, often changing multiple times before seeing him. I told myself he just had better taste than me. Then came the phone checks. He'd casually pick up my phone while I was showering, claiming he was just checking the time, but somehow always ending up scrolling through my messages. When I confronted him, he'd turn it around. "If you have nothing to hide, why does it bother you?" My friendship started suffering next. He'd find reasons why we couldn't meet up with my college friends. They're so immature. Or my work colleagues. They clearly resent your success. One by one, my social circle shrank until our weekends were filled exclusively with his friends and family. And his family, that was its own special nightmare. Old money, East Coast conservative, with the kind of politeness that has razor blades hidden inside. His mother would compliment my dress, then immediately ask if I'd bought it on sale. His father would inquire about my job only to launch into stories about how Eric was destined for greatness in his investment firm. I was clearly not the blue-blooded debutante they'd envisioned for their son. The worst part? Eric never defended me. When his mother made cutting remarks, he'd squeeze my hand under the table, not in solidarity, but as a warning to keep quiet. "That's just how they are," he'd say later. "You need to understand our family dynamics." Despite all this, I stayed. I'd catch glimpses of the original Eric, the one who once brought me soup when I had the flu, who knew exactly how I liked my coffee, who could make me laugh until I cried. I told myself that version was the real him, and these other moments were just temporary lapses. But the lapses became more frequent. The controlling behavior intensified. And still, I made excuses, adjusted myself, tried harder to fit into his world, until I found myself locked in a sweltering car on his sister's wedding day. The wedding invitation had arrived 3 months earlier, heavy cream cardstock with gold embossing that screamed expensive. I'd started shopping for a dress immediately, knowing how important appearances were to Eric's family. I finally found the perfect one at Nordstrom. Not too expensive that Eric would accuse me of being frivolous, not too cheap that his mother would raise her perfectly penciled eyebrows. The night before the wedding, I laid it out on our bed for approval. Eric barely glanced at it. "Looks fine," he muttered, focused on his phone. I took that as a win and hung it carefully in the closet. That morning, as I was doing my makeup, Eric seemed distracted, checking his watch repeatedly, making small, impatient noises. I hurried, assuming he was just anxious about being late. In the car, his mood darkened further. He turned the radio off mid-song when I was humming along. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I asked if he was nervous about giving his speech at the reception. "No," he said flatly. "I'm trying to figure out how to explain my girlfriend's inappropriate outfit to my 85-year-old grandmother." Before I could respond, we were pulling into the venue. That's when the car doors locked, trapping me in what would become my personal oven for the next 2 hours. The true bum moment wasn't when he locked me in. It was when I watched him walk away, straighten his shoulders, and smile charmingly at the venue coordinator, seamlessly transforming from my jailer to the perfect brother of the bride. In that moment, I realized the mask had finally slipped completely, revealing the monster beneath. Updated. I'm honestly stunned by your responses and support. To those asking if anyone knew I was in the car, not initially. The parking lot was mostly empty by the time the ceremony started, and I was in a section far from the main entrance. Has anyone else discovered their entire relationship was built on lies? 2 hours into my imprisonment, I was starting to feel seriously unwell. My vision was getting spotty, my designer dress now completely ruined with sweat. I'd exhausted every possible escape route. The doors wouldn't budge, the alarm system was armed, and the windows were securely up. Then, like something from a movie, I saw someone walking through the parking lot, a woman carrying professional camera equipment, the wedding photographer. With my remaining energy, I started banging on the window and waving frantically. She noticed me looking confused, then concerned as she approached the car. I mouthed, "Help," and gestured at the locks. After a minute of pantomimed communication, she understood. She hurried away, returning minutes later with the venue manager, who had a security override for the parking lot. Apparently, they'd dealt with accidentally locked cars before. When the door finally opened, the rush of fresh air felt like diving into cool water. As I stumbled out, dizzy and dehydrated, the photographer handed me her water bottle and asked what happened. Through parched lips, I told her the truth. The look on her face, pure horror mixed with recognition, told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't normal. This wasn't love. This was abuse, plain and simple. "I have a car," she said quietly. "I can take you home when my assistant arrives." That moment of kindness from a stranger broke something open inside me. I wasn't going to cry or cause a scene at someone else's wedding, but I wasn't going back to Eric either. "Thank you," I said, suddenly calm despite my pounding heart. "But first, can I borrow your phone? There's something I need to do while he's still at the ceremony. The photographer, Jenna, handed me her phone without hesitation. Take all the time you need. I called an Uber to take me to Eric's apartment. Thankfully, I had a key, and I knew exactly how much time I had before the ceremony ended and the reception began. 2 hours, maximum. The ride felt surreal, like I was watching myself in a movie. My body was on autopilot while my mind raced ahead, formulating a plan. I knew what I needed: my essential documents, irreplaceable items, and enough clothes to get by until I could come back for the rest. Eric and I didn't officially live together, but over 2 years, nearly half my wardrobe had migrated to his pristine Upper East Side apartment. The Uber driver kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror. I must have looked a mess. Makeup streaked from sweat, hair plastered to my forehead, designer dress wrinkled and stained. Rough day? He asked finally. I laughed, a sound so hollow it surprised even me. You could say that. When we arrived at Eric's building, the doorman gave me a concerned look but didn't question me. He'd seen me come and go for years. Inside the elevator, I caught my reflection in the mirrored wall and barely recognized myself. Beyond the physical dishevelment, there was something different in my eyes. A clarity I hadn't seen in a long time. Eric's apartment was exactly as we'd left it that morning. Coffee cups in the sink, his discarded ties draped over the bedroom chair, the lingering scent of his too expensive cologne. I moved quickly, methodically, grabbing my passport from the desk drawer, the jewelry my grandmother had left me, essential toiletries, enough clothes for a week. As I was collecting my things from his bathroom, I noticed his laptop open on the bed. It was unlocked, a rare occurrence, as Eric was usually obsessive about security. Some instinct made me pause my packing and sit down at the computer. I wasn't proud of what I did next, but something told me to check his messages. Maybe it was self-preservation, maybe intuition, or maybe just the universe throwing me a bone after the day I'd had. His email was open. And right there in his inbox was a thread with a name I recognized. Vanessa, his ex-girlfriend. The one he'd told me was ancient history and completely over before we even met. The most recent message was from yesterday. With shaking hands, I clicked. What I found made the car incident seem almost trivial. Hundreds of messages spanning our entire relationship. Flirty at first, then explicit. Weekend meetups when he'd told me he was on business trips. Plans they'd made. Promises he'd given her. The most recent? Wedding this weekend, but I'll see you Sunday. The usual place. She has no idea. My stomach lurched. 2 years of my life built on a foundation of lies. I wasn't just the girlfriend, I was the other woman without even knowing it. And based on these messages, Vanessa didn't know about me either. Or at least not the full extent of our relationship. For a moment, I sat frozen, the magnitude of the betrayal washing over me. Then, methodically, I began taking screenshots. I emailed them to myself. And then, in a decision that would change everything, I sent them to 3 other people. Eric's sister, Chelsea, the bride, his mother, and Vanessa herself. To Chelsea, I wrote, I'm sorry to do this on your wedding day, but your brother locked me in his car for 2 hours today because he didn't like my dress. When someone showed me who they are, I finally believed them. Here's who your brother really is. Congratulations on your marriage. I truly hope it's nothing like what I just discovered mine was. To his mother, you always made me feel like I wasn't good enough for your son. Turns out he wasn't good enough for anyone. Here's 2 years of proof. And to Vanessa, simply, I think we need to talk. I'm Eric's girlfriend of 2 years. Based on these messages, you might be too. I hit send on all 3 emails, then deleted the sent messages from his account. He wouldn't know what I'd done until it was too late. But I wasn't finished. The more I thought about the car incident, the more outraged I became. This wasn't just a bad boyfriend moment. This was dangerous, potentially criminal behavior. What if I had suffered heat stroke? What if there had been an emergency? I remembered that Eric's boss had a daughter about my age. On impulse, I found the company directory on his laptop and located the boss's email. I sent a brief, factual message describing what Eric had done today, without emotions or accusations. Just the plain truth about the kind of man he had working for him. I thought you should know, as someone with a daughter, I concluded. My phone pinged. A text from Jenna, the photographer, checking if I was okay. I assured her I was safe and would be staying with a friend tonight. Then I finished packing. As a final touch, I took the custom projector Eric had bought to display financial charts during his home office calls. I set it up facing the living room wall, connected it to my phone, and created a simple slide with large black text on a white background. Abusers don't deserve love. I set it on a timer to turn on at 10 p.m. when I estimated the reception would be ending and Eric would be coming home. Then I left, closing the door on that chapter of my life. I was at my friend Mia's apartment, showered and in borrowed pajamas when the storm hit. My phone, which had been silent all day, since Eric had confiscated it, suddenly exploded with notifications. 7:43 p.m., 7 missed calls from Eric. 7:50 p.m., text from Eric. What the hell did you do? 7:51 p.m., text from Eric. Where are you? 7:53 p.m., text from unknown number, which I later learned was Chelsea's husband. Your timing is terrible, but thank you for the truth. 8:01 p.m., 15 more missed calls from Eric. 8:10 p.m., text from Eric's mother. I always knew you weren't right for him, but I never imagined he wasn't right for anyone. I raised him better than this. 8:15 p.m., email from Vanessa. I had no idea. He told me you were just his roommate. We need to talk. 8:30 p.m., text from Eric. You've ruined everything. My sister left her own reception crying. My mother won't look at me. Answer your phone. I turned my phone off completely. Mia made us tea, and we sat on her small balcony watching the city lights blink on as the sun set. I told her everything. Not just today, but all of it. The controlling behavior, the isolation, the constant criticism. Speaking it aloud made me realize how much I'd normalized, how many red flags I'd ignored. I can't believe I didn't see it, Mia said, shaking her head. He was always so charming around us. That's how they operate, I replied, surprising myself with my own insight. They saved the real version for private. Around 10:30 p.m., curiosity got the better of us. I turned my phone back on briefly. 42 missed calls, 28 texts, multiple voicemails, each more desperate than the last. The final text made me shiver. I'm coming to find you. He doesn't know you're here, right? Mia asked, suddenly concerned. I shook my head. Number I never told him about reconnecting with you. Eric had discouraged my friendship with Mia months ago, claiming she was a bad influence. In reality, she was one of the few people who saw through his charm. Just to be safe, we double-checked all the locks and closed the curtains. Then, exhausted from the most intense day of my life, I finally fell into a dreamless sleep on Mia's couch. The next morning, I had one new message. From Vanessa. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop equidistant from our apartments. I was nervous, unsure what to expect. Would she blame me? Not believe me? She was already there when I arrived, a tall woman with short dark hair and designer glasses. She recognized me immediately. Your pictures were all over his Instagram, she explained, her voice tight. Always my roommate, or my friend. Never my girlfriend. We compared notes for the next 2 hours. Her story mirrored mine in so many ways, but started 3 years earlier. They'd been together since college. He told her he needed space, but never actually broke up with her. When he met me, he told her he had a temporary roommate to help with rent. All those business trips where he'd been with me. He told me he was working. He told her he was coming home to see her. The crazy thing is, Vanessa said, stirring her third latte, I always thought something was off. But he was so convincing, and when I questioned him, he made me feel crazy. Gaslighting, I said. Classic technique. By the end of our conversation, we weren't exactly friends, but we were allies. Two women who had been manipulated by the same man, now comparing battle scars and escape strategies. I returned to Mia's to find another development. A cease and desist letter from Eric's lawyer had been emailed to me, demanding I stop spreading malicious falsehoods and harassing his client. I forwarded it to my own lawyer friend for advice. Later that day, I got a surprising call from Chelsea. She and her new husband had decided to cancel their honeymoon to deal with the family crisis my revelations had triggered. I'm so sorry, I began, but she cut me off. Don't apologize. I'm calling to thank you. It's terrible timing, but better to know now than to keep living in the dark. What he did to you, locking you in that car, that's unforgivable. And the cheating? My brother needs serious help. According to Chelsea, the reception had imploded when her mother received my email. She'd confronted Eric publicly, causing a scene that ended with him storming out. He'd returned to his apartment to find my projector message glowing on his wall and most of my things gone. He's claiming you hacked his computer and stole from him, Chelsea said, but no one believes him anymore. The mask has slipped too far. I felt a strange mixture of vindication and sadness. Not for Eric. He'd made his bed, but for the collateral damage to his family. Chelsea's wedding day, forever tainted by her brother's actions and my revelations. But then I remembered sitting in that sweltering car, watching the wedding through the windshield, wondering if I might actually die of heat exhaustion because my boyfriend thought my completely appropriate dress would somehow embarrass him. Some things can't be forgiven. And some truths, no matter how painful, need to be exposed to the light. 3 months post-wedding incident, I'm a changed person, living in a vibrant apartment that's mine alone. colorful pillows, vintage furniture, magnet-covered fridge. Eric's rage turned into a campaign to win me back or ruin me. Voicemails, flowers, then threats to sue or defame. A restraining order stopped his office visits, backed by documented evidence of his abuse. His life? Imploded. Probation at work, strained family ties, and therapy for his behavior. I'm in therapy too, unpacking trauma bonds and gaslighting, realizing I hadn't been happy with Eric for years. Friends, old and new, have been my rock. Mia's couch, others' quiet support. The wedding photographer, Jenna, showed me a photo capturing me trapped in Eric's car, a blurry figure behind his smug smile. I declined keeping it. The lessons, trust instincts, set boundaries, never stay with someone who gaslights or traps you, are enough. I'm free now from that sweltering car and the man who thought he controlled me.